good evening, and welcome back to the Midnight Fire. Tonight, we're not gathering around a campfire, but instead, we're venturing out into the twilight, toward a place that should be filled with laughter and joy, but is instead shrouded in an unsettling silence. We're going to talk about the playground of whispers. Every town has one. A small, unassuming park tucked away between residential streets. By day, it's a scene of innocent delight. Children scaling jungle gyms, soaring on swings, their happy shrieks filling the air. But as dusk bleeds into night, a transformation occurs. The cheerful equipment becomes skeletal and strange under the dim glow of a single flickering street lamp. The laughter fades, replaced by something else entirely. Whispers. The story I'm about to tell you comes from a town called Crestwood Hollow, a place so ordinary it's almost forgettable. Their park, Maple Leaf Park, was no different. It had the standard set of swings, a metal slide that was scorching in the summer and freezing in the winter, and a squeaky merry-go-round. For generations, it was the heart of the community's childhood. But about 20 years ago, things began to change. It started subtly. Parents would be pushing their kids on the swings and would hear a faint murmur, like a radio playing in a distant house. They'd pause, listen, but hear nothing but the wind and the rhythmic creak of the swing chains. They'd shrug it off. Kids would come home from the park with strange stories, talking about a new friend they made, someone the parents never saw. When asked for a name, the kids would just say, "A whisperer." Most parents dismissed it as an imaginary friend, a common phase, but the stories grew more specific and more chilling. The children said their new friend would tell them secrets. Not childhood secrets about a hidden candy bar or a broken vase, but secrets about the adults in Crestwood Hollow. Secrets no child should ever know. The whisperer told me Mr. Henderson from down the street isn't really on a business trip, a little girl once told her mother, her eyes wide and serious. A week later, the truth about Mr. Henderson's sudden departure came to light, and it was far from a business trip. Another boy refused to get into his uncle's car after playing at the park. He just stood there, shaking his head, saying, "The whispers said not to." His parents were furious, embarrassed. But later that night, news broke of a serious car accident involving the uncle, who had been driving irresponsibly. The boy was safe because he had listened. The park soon earned a new name among the locals, the playground of whispers. The whispers weren't just random murmurs anymore. They seemed to carry an intelligence, a prescience that was deeply unsettling. People started to wonder where they were coming from. Some believed it was the ghost of a child who had a tragic accident there decades ago, though town records showed no such event. Others thought it was a sort of elemental energy, the park absorbing the town's collective secrets and anxieties, and playing them back like an echo. A group of local teenagers, fueled by bravado and skepticism, decided to investigate. They armed themselves with flashlights and a cheap audio recorder and went to Maple Leaf Park one moonless night. The place was eerily silent at first. The merry-go-round was still. The swings hung limp like gallows. They walked around, laughing nervously, trying to provoke a response. "Hello, is the whisperer here? We've got some secrets for you," one of them shouted into the darkness. For a while, nothing happened. They were about to pack it in, convinced the whole thing was a stupid urban legend. Then they heard it. A soft, sibilant sound like leaves rustling, but there was no wind. They froze, flashlights trained on the empty swing set. The sound grew clearer, coalescing into faint words. It wasn't one voice, but many, all layered on top of each other, weaving in and out. They turned on the recorder. One of the teens, a girl named Sarah, stepped closer to the swings, her heart pounding. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. The whispers swirled around her, and for a moment a single clear voice emerged from the cacophony. It was a child's voice, and it spoke her name. "Sarah." She stumbled back, terrified. The voice hadn't come from any direction. It felt like it had materialized right inside her ear. The whispers then began to speak to each of them individually. It told one boy about the money he'd stolen from his mother's purse. It reminded another of a lie he'd told his best friend, a lie that had ended their friendship. It spoke of their deepest fears, their most private shamas, things they had never uttered to another soul. The secrets weren't about other people anymore. They were about them. The experience shattered their bravado, leaving them exposed and terrified. They fled the park and never spoke of what happened that night, but the audio recording remained. When they listened back to it the next day, in the safety of the sunlight, they could hear their own panicked breathing and fearful questions. But where the whispers should have been, there was only static. The voices had only existed for them in that moment. The phenomena at the playground evolved again. The whispers were no longer just sharing secrets or warnings. They started making requests. "Find my locket," a little girl's voice would plead from the sandbox. "Push my swing," a boy's voice would sigh from the empty seat. The requests were always simple, always innocent. And some people, driven by pity or curiosity, would oblige. They'd sift through the sand or give the empty swing a gentle push. Those who did reported a feeling of profound peace afterward, a sense of lightness, as if a burden had been lifted. But there was a catch. The more they helped, the more they felt drawn back to the park. They started spending more and more time there, even during the day, just sitting on the benches, listening. It was as if by interacting with the whispers, they were becoming part of the park's strange ecosystem. One man, a lonely widower named Arthur, began visiting the park every evening. He said a voice that sounded like his late wife would talk to him from the old wooden bench where they used to sit. It comforted him. He'd spend hours there, having one-sided conversations. His neighbors grew concerned. He became withdrawn, thin, and pale. He seemed to be fading away. One morning Arthur was gone. His house was empty, his car still in the driveway. No one ever saw him again. The police investigated, but there were no signs of a struggle, no clues to his whereabouts. The only odd thing was a single, freshly dug hole in the sandbox at Maple Leaf Park, as if someone had been looking for something. After Arthur's disappearance, the whispers on the playground grew stronger, and some swore they could now hear a new voice among them, a gentle, older man's voice, mixed in with the chorus of children. The town of Crestwood Hollow now treats Maple Leaf Park with a kind of fearful respect. The children are no longer allowed to play there after sunset. The gates are locked, but locks, as we know, can't contain whispers. On quiet nights, if you walk along the fence line, you can still hear them. A symphony of secrets, of sorrows, and of requests, drifting from the empty swings in the silent merry-go-round. What is the playground of whispers? Is it a portal? A recording of past tragedies? Or is it something more insidious? A spiritual trap that feeds on loneliness and regret, luring people in with the promise of secrets and connection, only to eventually make them a part of its eternal, whispering chorus. No one knows for sure, but it serves as a chilling reminder that some places built for happiness and light, hold their own darkness. And sometimes if you listen too closely in the quiet of the night, that darkness might just whisper your name. Thank you for joining me at the Midnight Fire. Be careful where you play after dark. Turn on your notifications and subscribe for more stories from the shadows. Until next time, stay safe and good night.